This is Karen with My I'm Possible Dream, and I'm with Emmett Golden, half of the Golden Boys.
That's right.
And he's the shining Golden Boy. Okay, I hope I don't get in trouble with that one. Anyways, welcome,
that's what
Emmett.
Twitter says, so don't worry about it.
Okay. I'm glad. And I met Emmett a little over a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
But this past spring, he was our MC at Autism Speaks Kickoff, and I just can't thank you enough for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But before we even talk about Autism Speaks and things like that, how did you get into ESPN radio and sports?
Well, the way it kind of all started was, I was working, I just had a job. It was at American Greetings, their world headquarters, and I was grateful for it and working with some great people. But it was just a job. And my wife, started asking me, like, don't you want a career at something? At the time, I was 28, 29. And she said, don't you want to have a career? And I told her, like, hey, I was just grateful to have a job, so before I got picky, I just was happy to have a job. So she said, well, that's something you ought to give some thought. And I thought about it. I said, okay, if I'm going to dedicate my life to something, it's going to have to be something that I won't hate waking up every morning and going to. So what do I love? I love sports. I love talking to people, and I'm entertained by sports. So I got, people usually give me feedback. Hey, you got a really good personality and this. So what can I do with all that? Said, well, you know what? I'm going to try to get into sports talk radio. And my goal was never to have my own show. It was never to even talk on the air. I literally wanted to be like a behind the scenes producer. I wanted to be, I was a big fan of the Dan Patrick Show, and they had this guy on there named Seaton who would talk once in a while, but he played the music and he ran the board. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And that was my goal. I just wanted to be Seaton at ESPN Cleveland. So I went to the Ohio Center for Broadcasting, and from there I got an internship here, and then that's when my real education started as far as radio and just content and everything. And I kind of developed a set of rules, really one rule to go by, and that's if I can do it, I will do it. Because when you're an intern, you're asked to do a lot of stuff that sucks.
Right, exactly.
You're asked to do the worst stuff, around, because you're the lowest person on the totem pole. And I took that attitude where if I can do it, whether I want to do it or not, I will do it. And that just with me developing relationships around here, next thing you know, I get hired part-time. I get an on-air opportunity, and then that went from me to, being part-time to full-time and producing the afternoon show with Hooley and Gerard. And then next thing you know, I had a few people in the company that said, you know what, Emmett needs to be on the air more. And now I'm hosting the Golden Boys with Aaron Goldhammer.
Wow. So How long ago did you make the change from, American Greetings?
Coming up on my 5th year here with Good Karma. So 5 years ago, I kind of jumped all in, no safety vests. No, I just dove in and said, hey, it's either going to work or it's not. Worst case scenario, I could have kept working for some great people at American Greetings. And, I said it felt good to know I had that to fall back on if it didn't work out. But I just jumped all the way in, and I've been blessed. It's worked.
Well, that's truly the image of My I'm Possible Dream, even though it got created based on Alex and his experiences on the autism spectrum. As we've been growing the initiative, we've realized there are people just like yourself that there's something more that you want to do in life.
Right.
Getting up every single day and going to the same old job, even though the people may be nice, it's not giving you anything.
Yeah.
And thank God for your wife who said to you, hey, honey, what do you want to do with your life?
Yeah, she kicked me in my butt, a little bit. And because of her, I didn't think it would be possible to have a show, in the afternoons. But when I got my foot in the door and I was like, okay, I just want to get hired part time. I set that goal. I met that goal. Then the next goal is I want to get hired full time. Met that goal, and I was like, you know what? Being on the air is a lot of fun. I love to be a co-host or a host of show. So as I hit every goal, I start realizing that more things were possible than even what I envisioned at first. Because again, like I said, my apex was I just wanted to be a dude that ran the board, and I was like, man, that'd be the greatest dream in the world. And once I met that, I was like, hey, I was able to accomplish that, and let me set more goals and see what I can do. And so far, so good.
So here at ESPN Cleveland, you have a show in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
You work on Munch's show as well.
Yeah, a variety of shows.
Okay.
I board op and produce a variety of shows whenever I'm needed. I'm kind of like a fill-in producer and board op. Do some reporting, whether it's Cavs or Cleveland State or Ohio State or something like that. Whenever I'm needed, kind of filling in to those roles. I still set up remote broadcasts, which is something that a lot of people when they host, an afternoon drive show, they don't do. But I've always been, hey, anything I can do, I will do, and humble enough to not care about. So what? I got to set up a remote. I get to be on the radio. Like, who cares if that's the price for it? So I still do that, and I go on sales calls sometimes with the MCs around here. So it's just a lot. Whatever they need, I'm more than happy to do. So I do a variety of things.
And I think that's important for the listeners to hear, because when I interviewed Munch earlier today, one of the things I said to him was, so many of us believe that when we're listening to the radio, whether it's Tony Rizzo, yourself, Munch, Gerard, that you sit behind that mic, you do your show, and then you go home. But we're learning that there are so many other things that you have to do, and just your show alone doesn't put the bread on the table.
Oh, no.
There are all these other jobs that help put the bread on the table.
I mean, absolutely. Our show starts at 3. I'm here no later than noon, preparing for the show. And depending on the night, I can leave at 6. Sometimes I'm here till 9, sometimes 10, sometimes midnight. It just, whatever it takes is what, what I got to do.
Yeah. So I know you have a family. We obviously know you have a wife.
Right.
Okay. But you have 2 boys. How old are they?
Lance is 12 and Ethan will be 9 in about 2 weeks.
So when do they get to see you?
On the weekends, I get 1 day off a week. That's Sunday. In the mornings during school, I walk them to school every day, and it's a good time to just spend some time, with them. So I walk them to school every day, and I try to do different stuff because I really am gone a lot. When I do have an opportunity to hang out with them, I make it a point to, at the end of the school year, take a little bit of vacation to hang out with them, take a little more before school starts to kind of book in that time, before they get back to business.
Sure.
And just whatever free time I have, I just try to be around, so they can touch dad and say, hey, if they have anything they want to talk about, and just really drive home the fact that, hey, I'm here. You ever need to talk about anything, let me know. And, we can have any conversation you want to have.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Because, again, a lot of us don't understand that your job isn't a 9-to-5 job.
Oh, no, it's not. Not at all.
And, as glamorous as it is, because it is glamorous in some ways for you because you're doing what you want to do.
Yeah, and it's nice to go, people, hey, Emmett, hey, he go. Like, that's nice. Everybody likes to be liked and noticed.
Sure.
Right, but there's a lot that goes in, on the back end. I've done stuff where I've, watched our computer from 10 o'clock at night to 4:30 in the morning. And sat here overnight and watched a computer to make sure it ran right. That's not exactly luxurious,
no.
I mean, it was a long night, but it was a situation where I got a call. Hey, Emmett, we need your help. We've been having some problems. We want to make sure this runs right. If it fails, we're in big trouble. Can you do this? And I stuck with my rule, and I said, absolutely.
Wow. How does your boys see you as being this glamorous radio star?
They don't think it's a big deal at all. They're just like kind of whatever, that's what dad does. Like I always expect them to think more of it, but I guess like if that's what they know, like that's what their dad does, it's not a big deal. I went to my oldest son Lance. He was in the school band and they had a performance. And after it was over, I was walking out. I saw the principal and the band director, and I said, "Hey guys, how you doing?" And they stopped me and they started asking me about sports in Cleveland. And my oldest son Lance, he was like, "Oh my God," he's like, "My principal and my teacher is a fan." Like, "Oh man, now Dad's got to sit here and talk about sports. Oh, I just want to go home." Wait
a minute, wouldn't that be a good thing? Because if he gets in trouble, I mean, the principal says, "Hey, I get to talk to Emmett now."
Yeah, but
you're off the hook.
They just kind of look at it as, "Oh, okay." Maybe that. I don't know. Maybe to think too deep into it. Maybe think of, "Oh, here's someone else, wanting my dad's time." Maybe they feel like this was supposed to be mine. So I try to be mindful of that, but also courteous to people at at the same time.
Are the boys into sports?
Ethan is, my youngest is. He plays football for Brooklyn Youth Football. I talk about him all the time. He does really, really good at it. Lance is extremely creative. He draws and paints and like makes figures and likes to dance. He's the really creative one. Like if I need some ideas for a show, I would go to him. Like, "Hey, I need some creativity here." So they're different. They have their different ways, but they're great. And I just try to encourage whatever they want to do. I know that Lance, my oldest son, sees me go crazy when Ethan scores a touchdown. I need to make sure he sees me go crazy when he does something too.
Absolutely.
I know how important that is, so I really, really try to do that.
Well, again, you came to our kickoff for Autism Speaks. Mm-hmm. You blended in so well. You were so genuine. Mm-hmm. And I just know that it's you to begin with.
Right.
But what made you want to do that for us? Because we're all still talking mm-hmm. about how wonderful you are.
Well, I mean, growing up, I don't know, how many people know this, but my mother had multiple sclerosis, and she died when I was 12. So I kind of understand how families can go through a variety of things. And people don't have to go through what I went through for me to have compassion for them. I understand, hey, sometimes, life is tough or whatever, and, people need help, whatever the case may be. But when somebody asks me, again, if I can do it, I will do it. And I was able to do that. And anytime I can help, I mean, like, it's weird. Like, why does anybody care if I MC? Like, something like, to me, it's like, why? Like, who am I? I still have that type of feeling to it, but I go, hey, if somebody, I'm more than happy to help any way that I can. I hope I do a good job, but I just think it's funny that anybody cares about me at all.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it's just funny to me.
Well, we do care.
Right.
And like I said, we are all still talking mm-hmm. about it because you were so caring mm-hmm. to everyone that was in that room. Right. And sometimes we don't get that from mm-hmm. our MCs.
Right.
And they come in and they're all about themselves.
Yeah. I don't think it's a reason to do it if that's the situation. You might as well just say no.
And we appreciate that. I also noticed that I guess it's almost 2 years since Alex came down here mm-hmm. and was on 3 Deep. God, it's been that long.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And both you and Gerard, took him under your wing. Mm-hmm. And again, to me, that has just been amazing. That you cared enough about him. Obviously, you appreciated his knowledge. But you've remained friends. Mm-hmm. He's just Alex. I mean, when I'm okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put it that way out.
Right. No, it's okay.
But sometimes I wonder, like, mm-hmm. there are other people who have met him, but haven't treated him as kindly.
Well, I try to treat everybody, with kindness and respect, and like, why wouldn't you say he's just Alex? I'm just Emmett. I'm just a dude. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just a dude. Like so, like for me to tweet or text or whatever Alex and have a conversation about something, like why wouldn't I do that? He's always been extremely nice to me, so I should reciprocate that. I just think that's the way people should interact with each other. It's a shame it doesn't happen as much as it does, but I don't get why people would not be courteous to anyone.
Well, and I appreciate that because that's the message I try to get out in the blog every single day. It's that we need to put our differences away.
Mm-hmm.
We're all different. We're all
Right.
quirky. But we tend to want everybody to conform. And that was the one thing that I saw that was different with you and Gerard. You allowed Alex to have his thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
his feelings, express it his way. Whether he was right, wrong, different, didn't make any difference. And I know there were things that you discussed on 3D that sometimes he didn't agree with you either,
Mm-hmm.
but it didn't bother him either because it was conversation.
Right.
So, Alex, when you first met these guys, what was your impression?
Well, I had listened to the show. I was a fan of it. So, first day I came in here. First off, I didn't know Emmett had any connection to Dolph Ziggler, which it's funny enough. I wore a Dolph shirt,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know the connection until afterwards, which I'm like, okay, so Emmett and I can connect on that. But when I first came in, it was like, you want to know what? This is my first chance. I got to be able to show these guys that, hey, I'm not just another listener. I am a source of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me the opportunity, and I know they were talking about, it was Jim Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just coming back to the Browns that day. He had his press conference, and I remember going into that day, I'm like, I need to come prepared because they may talk about this. Threw me on. I was hitting points, which I was like, okay, good, you're doing that. And then we get into other stuff, which I was like, you want to know what? Let's see how we all converse. And it just was so natural right from the beginning. And it just was. I mean, the next 2 times I was on there, I always wore a Dolph shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Right.
still do every time I'm on a show with Emmett.
Right.
I wear a Dolph shirt because...
But not today.
Well, yeah, that's different.
Yeah, I almost wore mine today.
Don't ask me how I got the Air Dolph shirt. I'll tell you afterwards. But it was just so natural how we all communicated. And it wasn't just Emmett and Gerard. We have to also include Will Burge in this.
Yep.
Because
Oh,
Will was
absolutely.
just as much as someone who took me under his wing as Emmett and Gerard were. And I think in some ways, because I think Will was sort of like, he sort of hosts, he sort of
he was
directed.
they call it running point.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
was the lead host.
And I think in that way, in more ways than you guys, I think he sort of took me a little bit more under his wing. And I think a little bit he still does to this day. He still owes me one interview, but that's for another day.
Hey, Will, are you
That's
listening?
not right.
Yeah. But it was just so natural, and I think it showed at the kickoff. We were both on stage doing the stuff, and we hadn't been on the air together. Well,
Mm-hmm.
we were technically a couple days before, but there was a huge gap there. So my concern was, are we going to be able to have that natural chemistry? But at the same time, this shouldn't even be a question. It's
Mm-hmm.
Emmett and me, and we know each other. We know how we work. I listen to him all the time. I know what we got to do. And that was, I think, one of the big things from the kickoff that I haven't relayed to you. It's just everybody was saying the way you and Emmett connected, it
Mm-hmm.
was natural. It was like you guys could do a show together. I'm like, hey, why don't you
That's
tell
right.
us that? I'm a free agent.
Right,
So,
right.
but it was a lot of fun. And that's the way Emmett works. He just has fun. And he has a
Right,
job
right.
where if you don't come here having fun, then you shouldn't be doing this.
I agree 100%, and that's one of the reasons I chose to pursue it, because it is fun, and a lot of work goes into it as well. But I mean, I get to talk for a living and tell people what I think. And like I said, I'm still am blown away. The fact that anybody cares what I think, it's still funny to me. Like, why does anybody care what I have to say? But it's I'm fortunate and blessed. I know I worked hard, so I played a little bit of part in this, but I'm just really fortunate.
Now, you and Aaron, this show was the first time the two of you really started working together?
For the most part, yeah. A few I didn't realize it at the time. Hindsight is funny what you realize at the time. For I don't know, maybe 2 months before we were told we were going to do the show together, we started doing Saturdays together. I just thought they needed somebody to set up the remote, for him. Yeah. Like, that's what I was under the impression of. Hey, I'm here to set up the remote. And, we kind of talked during the show, because a lot of people are really cool around here and always giving me that opportunity. So now, hindsight, I was like, oh, I guess they were seeing, like, how does this dynamic work? And they like what they heard, and they put us together, and it's been fun. It's been real fun.
Well, when I was interviewing Sam before, I had mentioned to him that before Alex went on 3 Deep, you never would have caught me listening to ESPN Cleveland. Mm-hmm. But he went on 3 Deep, and of course I had to listen.
Right.
And I fell in love with you, Gerard, and Will Burge. Mm-hmm. So I listened to 3 Deep. Well, when 3 Deep went away, I had to find my fit.
Right. Right.
And so now I listen to Gerard and Rizzo in the morning. Mm-hmm. I can't believe I listened to them.
Right.
I listen to you and Aaron in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. Like, oh my God, Karen, enough already. And when I can, I listen to Munch in the evening. Mm-hmm. And I still can't keep up with Alex and his sports knowledge. I still have no idea what he's talking about.
I can't keep up with Alex and his sports knowledge. Okay. So don't worry about it.
Remember those tweets? I was giving you fun tweets to use.
Yeah. I mean, we played a game a few months ago where it was like, hey, Emmett, name the random Major League Baseball player, what team he plays for. I got a whole bunch of them wrong.
Oh, the All-Star one?
Yeah, I'm like, shame on me,
Emmett, I was in the car. I almost called in. Yeah. And when you named him, I was like, I'm naming them before you're doing it, like Darren O'Day. Oh, the Orioles.
Right.
I was just going through all of them, and I'm like, every time you bring up, without split second thinking, Josh Johnson, Blue Jays.
Yeah.
And it was just like that.
And that day, I got a bunch of people on Twitter that was like, man, shame on you. You're a sports talk show host. How do you not know all this? Baseball. Yeah. And I said, listen, you're absolutely right, but I just don't. And I think a lot of times, just me being honest, and I think a lot of times just me being honest about that type of stuff comes across pretty well. Like, I can say, hey, I'm not perfect. I don't know everything, so hey, tell me, fill me in, help me out, Well,
and I think that's important. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I think the format that you guys have here at ESPN Cleveland allows for that. Mm-hmm. And it makes it more real.
Right.
When I was interviewing Munch earlier today, too, one of the things I said to him was that we're very lucky to have ESPN Cleveland because there are so many terrestrial radio stations today that are they're not local. Mm-hmm. And so when you're listening, it doesn't feel comfortable.
All right.
But I think that's why I listen to your shows, because you're talking about my hometown. I recognize, so I may not understand all the sports stats, but I know that you're talking about the Browns or the Cavs or the Indians.
Yeah, and that was part of my point, too. I'm like, dude, I'm here in Cleveland. Like, who cares? Like, why should I be breaking down the Orioles? I was like, hey, if they, hey, shame on me. Maybe I should know this stuff, but I get paid to talk about Cleveland, so I'm going to kind of focus on that,
So when you decided to go into radio, your real concept was you just really wanted to run the board.
Yep, that was it.
So now you're on the air. Mm-hmm. Do you have any big dreams now?
Really just, continue to grow with Aaron and submit ourselves in the afternoon. I've been on probably 4 different shows. I only been here 5 years and been a part of like 4 different shows. So I'm looking. My next goal is stability, and hopefully we can we can do something big. I just look at it like I don't want to be like some big national like radio guy.
You don't want to be like Mike and Mike.
No. I mean, if it happens, cool. If I really want to do it here in Cleveland. So I mean, if one of these days someone says, "Hey, we want you to do this national thing, and you can do it from Cleveland," I'd be all for it. But that's not one of my goals. My goal, right now is just to grow the Golden Boys and for us to be successful.
Well, that sounds great. Maybe they could. Maybe Alex, you can change your name to Gold something and
right. Just fit right in.
Yeah,
right.
We could just get you in there somehow.
3 Deep Golden Boys.
Right.
3 Deep Golden Boys, or the Matzo Ball Boys or something. I don't know. We could figure something out there.
Right.
Well, I want to invite you and your family out to the Walk for Autism. It's Sunday, the 23rd of August. We're going to have some great entertainment, including Alex Hale here.
6 days after my birthday.
Nice. We're not going to say how old he's going to be, unless he wants to.
I'm going to be 25.
He's going to be 25, a quarter of a century old.
I know.
Yeah, still a lot younger than me.
Lots of really good entertainment, but your buddy Gerard Cherry is going to be emceeing, so if you want to come out and even MC with him, we'd love to have you there. Any words of wisdom to anybody who wants to get into this business?
I mean, you got to work your butt off. You got to be a little lucky too. I've known people who were talented that worked hard and just still looking for jobs, so it's a tough business to crack into. You got to get some breaks, but you got to work hard, and you got to find, you have to be able to do something that nobody else can do. My expertise is not stats, but there are people who do that, and it's pretty much just finding your niche, but you have to find it, so, you work hard, figure out something that you can do better than anybody else and catch a break. And that's really what it boils down to.
And you got to keep your options open.
Yes, you do. Yes.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do.
Well, we want to thank you. We want to thank your wife as well for getting you to where you are.
Absolutely.
And your wife's name?
Camila.
Yeah, so
Camila,
I hope to meet you soon, and thank you so much because Emmett does a great job, and we are excited to have you as part of our family. So
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We'll talk to you soon, and take care of those 2 boys.
Oh, I will. I definitely will.
All right.